Dear friends, this is a short video, a reflection as we approach Christmas 2011. And my name is Brother Sean. For those who don't know me, I'm an enclosed, independent lay Franciscan monk, a member of the Teo community of St. Francis of Assisi, where a group of ordinary men and women embrace the barefoot Galilean, following in the spirit of Francis. And part of our ministry is that of prayer, where we dedicate our lives to God in service to all faiths and none, and where we trust in the power of that love to inspire hearts to return to a loving God, a forgiving God, an all-embracing God. And that all-loving, all-encompassing God has assigned to you and to me a messenger of light. And those messengers of light are known as angels. Yeah. And I would like to share with you a reflection on what angels have to show us as we approach 2012. The angels of the Christmas and Easter stories are not absurd. For the spirit that fills the holy seasons like Christmas and Easter helps you and I realize that life and living are not as simple as we sometimes think. We realize that we are surrounded by mysteries and marvels so great that they can make even us change our lives. We may recognize that we need to love one another as the Holy One, the Anointed One, the I Am Presence, the Supreme, loves you and me. This can force us to a new way of life. When we remember and relive the events of Bethlehem, Gethsemane, the Holy Sepulchre, the power of heaven come close. The veil that separates us from the world of the Spirit is drawn back, and we are allowed to see the face of God. Whenever God breaks through this veil, we are surrounded by angelic powers, beings of love, messengers of hope in a world that has lost sight of the very presence and existence of God. There are numerous well-documented testimonials of actual events recorded in not only the Old and New Testament Bibles, but in other sacred books of the world religions, when angels touch the lives of ordinary people like you and me. For the religious leaders and their doubting believers who deny the very existence of angels, I would refer them to reflect on the important fact that angels did appear 384 times in the Christian Bible alone. And it was the Archangel Michael, known as Michael, who inspired the Prophet Muhammad to write the sacred book of the Quran. We don't have to be a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, or Sikh to believe in angels. Angels touch our lives regardless of one's spiritual persuasion or belief. How come? Because we are a child of God, born from a seed of love. For the writers of the New Testament, the difficulty and challenges before them was to find a way to express the uniqueness of this man Jesus, to find words to convey the depths that they say in his death and resurrection. In his selfless death, they knew that in him the love of God had come among human beings in a remarkable way. They knew that God, the Creator being, in Christ was reconciling the world to himself. And yet, today, we still disbelieve. Isn't that a challenge? The stories of the angels in the life of Jesus do this. They have power which no lecture or broadcast could ever have. When we read the story of his birth of a virgin mother, it speaks to us of utter kindness and the generosity of a loving God, and of his creative power which can draw new life out of empty wombs and barren tombs. When we read the story of the turmoil this child brought into people's lives, Mary, Joseph, the Magi, Herod, the whole of Jerusalem, and all the babes of Bethlehem, we are forced to ask ourselves whether the risen Christ challenges and moves my life in the same way. Does he? Or doesn't he? When we read the story of the shepherds and their vision of angelic choirs, we discover anew that in Christ the prophet, the holy man, the heavens open and God breaks into my life. When we read the story of the message from heaven, of glory in the highest heavens, open, and God breaks into my life to speak hope. When we read the story of the message from heaven, of the glory in the highest and peace on earth, we hear an echo of the risen Christ, who said just that to his disciples, "Shalom, my peace I give to you." The Creator God, who made each one of us in love, continues to say that to millions of his followers since, it is through these stories that a loving Creator God continues to come to each one of us, today, tomorrow, to invite us to become part of the story of his life. Our Christmas hymns describe a world more fully real than the materialistic world in which so many of us have been brainwashed. The drama of Christmas may well be given us one of our deepest glimpses into the heart of God, and yet, angels have to show us another way. What way? If they are the messengers of God, then why don't they stop us in our tracks to cease our barbaric actions to one another in the name of God? Look what's happening in Syria, where divisions within Islam are killing one another in the name of Allah. This is not what the messengers of God teach us. This is man's ego gone sour, and a heart of a child of God that has become corrupt. And look at Jerusalem, Israel, God's chosen people. What are the messengers of God saying to us about what's going on there with Palestine? And it's all over territory and land. And yes, the messengers of God are asking us to respect the sacred places of God, not of man. And what are the angels of God trying to say to us today about the homeless, those who've lost everything? And many of our homeless today are ex-servicemen and women who can't cope with living in this mad world because they've been institutionalized. What are the angels of God teaching you and me? Well, they're saying to me to pray and to demonstrate kindness and to support them in whatever way I can by walking alongside them as an archangel. Shalom, inshallah, pax et bonum om shanti, solo de caritas, peace.